Am I the a-hole for not giving my ex-girlfriend any money after we broke up? So, my ex, 28 female and I, 30 male, were together for about 2 years. We broke up a couple of months ago, and honestly, it was on good terms. There was no big fight, no cheating, no betrayal. Just a mutual realization that we were headed in different directions in life. It was a mature, clean breakup. The thing is, when we first got together, she moved to the US from overseas to be with me. It was a big decision on her part. She left a lot behind, including dropping out of school and leaving her family and friends. While we were together, I was the one covering most of the financial stuff. That included rent, utilities, her car lease, her tuition, visa-related expenses, you name it. I had recently come into a good amount of money through investments and an inheritance, so I was in a financial position to take care of both of us, and I didn't mind doing it. She never worked while she lived here, and that was something we were both okay with. We had a kind of unspoken understanding that I'd be the provider while she handled things at home. I never saw it as a big deal. My money is our money was the mindset I had at the time, and I was happy to support us while the relationship lasted. Now, after the breakup, she's reached out to ask if I'd be open to giving her a financial settlement. Her reasoning is that she made significant sacrifices to be with me, leaving her country, dropping out of school, putting her life on hold, and she feels like she deserves some sort of compensation for everything she gave up. To be fair, I didn't force her to do any of that. I never asked her to move or quit school. She made those decisions because she wanted to be with me, and I supported her in every way I could while we were together. And yes, I do feel bad that she's now in a tough situation. She doesn't have a job, she's not in school anymore, and she's far from home. I can understand why she's feeling lost and looking for a sense of fairness. But at the same time, we weren't married. There was no legal commitment, no formal agreement. We were dating. Seriously, yes, but it was still a relationship, not a contractual partnership. Now I'm stuck wondering, am I the a-hole for saying no? For not wanting to give her money after the breakup just because she feels she's owed something for the time she invested in me and the relationship? I tried to be generous, supportive, and loving while we were together. I never held the money over her head, and I don't regret helping her. But now that we've gone our separate ways, I just don't feel like I owe her anything beyond what I already gave. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to give her a financial settlement after we broke up, even though she feels like she'd sacrificed a lot for me? Now for the top comments. All the benefits of dating you end when the relationship ends. These things are conditional, not your problem. Her visa ends. She goes back eventually, and you're not funding her when she leaves either. Relationship ends, free stuff ends. Simple as that. If she wanted to maintain her independence, she should have kept her education and job options open. Her choices don't obligate you now. Not the a-hole, but perhaps fund the ticket to return her to her home. That's actually a thoughtful idea. If he's feeling conflicted about helping her without overstepping, covering her return might be a middle ground, supportive, but not an ongoing obligation. I agree. Just give her some money in honor of her making some sacrifices. If you love a person, and it wasn't a horrible breakup, just honor them with a final favor, whether it's making sure they are up on their feet okay or at home with their family. There's the way you tell it, the way she sees it, and the way it happened. Sounds like she was your wife without the benefit of legal protection. Giving her enough to get home and in a safe environment is the least you should do. She's not entitled or deserving of half of your wealth, but taking care of her to know she's in a safe place would be the right thing to do. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being angry my tax refund paid off my husband's child support? My husband and I filed our taxes jointly this year, just like we've done for the past 2 years. Everything seemed routine, and we were both expecting a decent refund. We had plans for that money, nothing extravagant, but things we'd been budgeting for. Some home repairs, paying down a bit of debt, and maybe even a short getaway. But when the refund finally hit our account, only $175 was deposited. At first, I thought it had to be some kind of mistake. I double-checked the return, went through all the numbers again, and eventually asked him if he had any idea what could have happened. That's when he dropped the bomb. He had $7,000 in unpaid child support, and the IRS took our refund to cover it. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea that he was behind on his payments. He'd always led me to believe he was making regular monthly payments without issue. I would have never suspected that he was thousands of dollars behind, especially not to the point where the government would garnish our joint tax return. He never once mentioned it. Not when we were filing, not when we were making financial plans for that refund, not ever. When I brought this up to him, told him how hurt and blindsided I felt, he completely dismissed my feelings. He actually told me I should be grateful that the debt is now paid off, because in his words, it means he can contribute more money each month going forward. That logic doesn't even make sense to me. His child is still under 18, so he's still legally and morally obligated to keep making child support payments. It's not like it's over now. This was just a lump sum to catch up on what he'd already failed to pay. To make it worse, he got angry at me for how I reacted, as if I was being unreasonable for feeling violated and taken advantage of. But I do feel violated. That was our money. Money I worked for too. And it was taken to cover a debt I didn't know existed. A debt that, if I'm being honest, I would have supported him paying if he'd just been upfront with me. But instead, he kept it hidden until it blew up in both of our faces. And now I'm the bad guy for being upset? I honestly feel physically ill over this. The lack of transparency, the dismissal of my feelings, the financial consequences I'm now forced to share because he didn't tell me the truth. It's just all too much. Am I the a-hole for being angry and upset over this? Divorced father of now grown children. Parents that don't pay their child support are freaking degenerates. Grown child of parents that abandoned me and didn't pay support, so I grew up dirt freaking poor. I completely agree with you. Not the a-hole. You're dealing with a man who doesn't pay child support and tricked you into paying it. He is a POS. Don't expect him to be any better than he has already shown. He won't be. If you let this go, the next screw-up will be bigger. Cut your losses and get rid of the hobosexual. When I discovered the word hobosexual, it has helped me understand why some men love bomb and push hard for living together. They want the stability a housed woman can give. Food and shelter can make a woman the target of an unscrupulous man. Absolutely. I dated one over 20 years ago now before that term had been coined, but he definitely was one. Luckily, I realized what he was before allowing him to move in. We only dated for maybe a month or two, and he was between jobs the entire time. I lived just north of Fort Lauderdale at the time, and the night he came to my door and asked me to take a ride down to South Miami. It would have been roughly a 3-hour round trip had we only driven where he wanted to and come right back. To pick something up for a friend? I ended it. I had 2 young daughters at the time, and had just put them to bed, and this man expected me to make a drug run with him? Oh, hell no. I hope OP is able to get out while she can. Fill out the injured spouse allocation form, not the a-hole. Tax pro here. This is the way to go. Another tax pro here. Yes, do this, OP. I had a client in a similar situation, and we filed with her as injured spouse for the couple of years that they were married before she kicked him to the curb. You can do this after the fact and for future returns too. Mini update. I've filed an injured spouse form. Unfortunately, it had to be mailed in. It couldn't be submitted electronically. So now I'm just waiting and hoping I'll be able to recover at least some of what was taken. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying back my ex-boyfriend's wife? About 2 years ago, in the fall-winter of 2023, I, 28 female, met an older man, 42 male, on a dating app. He said he was divorced and had partial custody of his kids. I didn't look into it because I was naive. Spoiler, he was fully married and having an affair with me. I only found out recently. We dated for about 5 months. He definitely love-bombed me and bought me expensive gifts. A Tiffany necklace, a Coach purse, hair salon gift cards, etc. And we went on 2 trips to ski resorts. He paid for it all. My plane ticket, resort, ski passes, all food, etc. We also usually ate out about once a week at more upscale places. He even gave me $3,000 for a down payment on my car to help me get a safer ride. I knew it was a lot, but he said he had the money and was happy to help. He told me he worked remotely for a finance business and traded crypto. So it was a whirlwind, very exciting and fun. Near the 4-month mark, I asked about eventually meeting his kids, and he shut it down, saying they didn't take well to girlfriends. I said okay at the time, but it didn't sit well. Around the 5-month point, I told him I wanted to be sure we were on the same page about potentially meeting each other's families and starting to integrate our lives. He said that wasn't something he could see happening, so I broke it off on good terms. I just wanted more than a boyfriend for dates and trips. I wanted to work toward a partnership. Fast forward to last month, so about 1.5 years after we moved on. His picture was posted in an Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook group. I commented, "We dated a few years ago. He was great. Didn't seem to be looking for anything long-term though." Well, I then got a DM from someone I didn't know. She told me she is or was his wife. They're separated because she found out he was cheating on her. I told her I was very sorry to hear that. She asked when we dated, and I gave her the months. She thanked me and said it helped her move on, to know there were others. Then a few weeks later, she messaged me again. She said she was looking through credit card statements, and during the months he and I were seeing each other, there were thousands of dollars charged. She asked if I had ever gone on trips with him. I was uncomfortable, but said yes. We went to 2 ski mountains. She told me he had said he was going alone for me time, but it makes sense why it was so much money since I was there too. She also said he was unemployed for years, and it was all her money he was using. Everything was tied to her credit card. Again, I told her I was very sorry, that it was a long time ago. I sincerely didn't know about her, and I had moved on. She then said she expected me to pay her half of all the expenses on the credit card for itemized things like airline charges, resorts, restaurants, stores like Tiffany and Coach, and others. The amount she gave me was crazy, like $12,000. I told her I didn't have that kind of money, and that everything was presented to me as a gift with no expectation of repayment. I told her I would not be paying her that money. So, am I the a-hole? I feel terrible because I can't imagine her pain, and I'm sure this is part of her coping mechanism. But she can't really expect me to pay that, right? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She's asking you because she can't squeeze blood from her stone of a husband. She would have to sue him, and I don't even know if that would be successful. She's grasping at straws here. Not just can't squeeze blood from a stone, she might be looking at having to pay him alimony if she's been supporting him for years. Depending on the divorce laws where the ex and OP live, the ex's wife could technically sue OP for the monetary value of the gifts she received from the ex. Also, the ex's wife will likely not have to pay alimony if her ex-husband both chose not to work and chose to commit what's considered financial infidelity. If she's even his wife, you owe her no obligations. He was the one who took her money. He should be the one giving it back to her. But this is probably a scam, and you shouldn't just believe everything some random person on the internet says. Not the a-hole. Even if he wanted it back, it was legally a gift with no reasonable expectation of repayment. A lawsuit would get tossed pre-trial as baseless and a nuisance suit, designed to punish her husband's mistress. This makes me feel better. I was spiraling about having to think about a lawyer or something, but you're right. It would get thrown out. It wasn't like I used her card or stole from anyone. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not asking my ex about her surgery? I've been divorced from my ex-wife for several years now. We share 3 kids together, and our judgment of divorce outlines a 50-50 custody agreement, 1 week on, 1 week off. Despite the end of our marriage, we've managed to maintain a pretty cooperative and civil relationship, especially when it comes to parenting. We both genuinely care about our kids and do what we can to make things work smoothly for them. There are plenty of times when we help each other out, even if it's technically not our week. Whether it's driving the kids to school, sports, or events, or swapping days for things like family gatherings or school activities. We've always worked as a team. We've both stayed committed to putting the kids first and making co-parenting as functional as possible. That said, there's a reason we're divorced. While we're friendly enough for the kids' sake, we've each drawn firm boundaries when it comes to our personal lives. If it's not related to our children, I don't share anything about what's going on in my life, and I'm not interested in knowing about hers. It keeps things clean and respectful. We are co-parents, not confidants. A few months ago, she reached out and asked if I could take care of the kids for a couple of days during her week because she was going to have surgery. I said yes, no questions asked. I figured it must be important if she was requesting help, so I agreed and left it at that. Several days later, she called me furious. She was upset that I didn't ask why she was having surgery. She felt hurt and said it showed I didn't care. Here's my side. I genuinely didn't ask because I believed it was a private matter. If she had wanted me to know, she would have told me. I didn't want to pry into something that wasn't my business. I assumed that by only telling me she was having surgery and not elaborating, she was choosing to keep the details to herself, and I wanted to respect that boundary. Her side, she told me that if the roles were reversed and I were the one having surgery, she would want to know what it was for. Not just for her own peace of mind, but because she believes it's relevant and important information when you share children. According to her, anything significant that happens to either parent matters because it indirectly affects the kids. So now I'm left wondering, am I the a-hole for not asking? Was I wrong to assume that respecting her privacy was the right thing to do? Should I have shown more concern? Or was it reasonable for me to think that if she wanted to share more, she would have, and it wasn't my place to dig? I don't think I was being cold. I wasn't being rude. I said yes to helping with the kids without hesitation. But now I feel like I'm being painted as emotionally indifferent just because I didn't ask a follow-up question. So, am I the a-hole for not asking about my ex-wife's surgery? Not the a-hole. It sounds to me like it's less about you knowing and more about her wanting you to ask. It comes off as attention-seeking behavior. I'm glad I am not the only one thinking that. Thanks. Not the a-hole. This is a silly emotional game for a grown adult to play. Kinda what I was thinking. You want me to know? Tell me. You don't want me to know? Don't tell me. Straightforward. Not the a-hole, but personally, I'd probably ask if everything was okay. Only for the sake of knowing if it will affect my children. However, you aren't obligated to ask. Not the a-hole, but it almost feels like she hasn't gotten over you. If you're over her, then I suggest you hold tight on that thought. Is she remarried? Are you? If the answer to both is no, then don't let yourself forget why you divorced in the first place. Because chances are nothing has changed, and after a short honeymoon period, you'll be back in the same mess that you already got out of. She hasn't remarried, but she has been in many relationships since we divorced. I haven't been in one. I haven't wanted anything to do with a relationship since. But that is a different issue. There is no freaking way I'm getting back with her.